The morning sun peeked through the worn blinds of Maya Johnson's tiny apartment as her alarm blared for the third time. She groaned and reached out to silence it, her muscles aching from yesterday's double shift. 28 years old with dreams bigger than her bank account, Maya had never planned on being a waitress for this long. Yet here she was, 5 years into what was supposed to be a temporary job while figuring out her next move. Maya rolled out of bed and shuffled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face to chase away the exhaustion. The mirror reflected tired eyes, but she practiced her smile anyway. In the service industry, a genuine smile was worth its weight in gold, even when your feet hurt and your back ached. Another day, another dollar, she mumbled to herself, a phrase her grandmother had repeated throughout her childhood. The old saying had taken on new meaning now that Maya was juggling 3 jobs to make rent in downtown Chicago. Her main gig was at Sunshine Diner, a modest establishment with chipped formica tables and the best blueberry pancakes in the neighborhood. The pay wasn't great, but the regular customers made up for it with their kindness and occasional generous tips. Between shifts at Sunshine, Maya picked up hours at a coffee shop near the university and weekend bartending at a local pub. The schedule was brutal, but she made it work. After a quick shower and an even quicker breakfast, just a banana and coffee, Maya threw on her yellow Sunshine Diner uniform and headed out. The early October air held a crisp chill that promised winter wasn't far away, and she pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders as she waited for the bus. The diner was already buzzing when she arrived. Her coworker Pete waved from behind the counter, looking relieved to see her. "Thank goodness you're here," he said, sliding a fresh pot of coffee into her hands. "Table 7's been asking for you specifically. Something about wanting to make sure their eggs are Maya style, whatever that means." Maya laughed. "That's the Henderson couple. They like their eggs over medium, but with the whites fully set. No runny whites, slightly soft yolk." Pete shook his head in amazement. "How do you remember all this stuff? I can barely remember my own phone number some days." This was Maya's not-so-secret talent. Where other servers scribbled down complicated orders and modifications, Maya simply listened and remembered. She never mixed up orders or forgot a special request, even for customers who visited months apart. Her memory was nearly photographic when it came to people's preferences. "Table 4 wants their usual," Pete added, nodding toward a corner booth where an elderly man sat reading a newspaper. "Mr. Kovac. Coffee black, 2 sugars on the side. Western omelet with extra peppers, no onions. Crispy hash browns," Maya recited, already pouring the coffee. By mid-morning, Maya had settled into her familiar rhythm. She moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her smile never faltering even when a toddler spilled orange juice all over her shoes. The regulars loved her, and even first-time customers found themselves charmed by her attentive service and uncanny ability to anticipate their needs. During a rare, quiet moment, Maya leaned against the counter, rubbing her lower back. Lily, the cook who'd become a friend over the years, pushed a plate of fries toward her. "Eat something. You're looking too skinny again," Lily said, her Romanian accent thick with concern. "I had breakfast," Maya protested weakly, but took a fry anyway. Lily was right. She had been skipping too many meals lately, trying to save every penny. "You work too hard," Lily continued, folding her arms across her chest. 3 jobs is too much. Nobody can live like this forever." Maya shrugged. "It's temporary. Just until I pay off my mom's medical bills and save enough for what? You keep saying temporary. But I've watched you run yourself ragged for years now," Lily interrupted. "You have gift, Maya. Not just memory, but way you make people feel. You should use this somewhere better than Sunshine." Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Raj, Lily's nephew who worked as a line cook at Lumiere, one of the fanciest restaurants in the city. "Emergency at Lumiere. Big charity gala tonight. Half the waitstaff called in sick. $300 cash for one night. Know anyone?" Maya stared at the message, her heart racing. $300 for one night was almost a week's pay at Sunshine. But Lumiere was famous for its exclusivity and 5-star service. She'd be completely out of her element. As if reading her mind, Lily peered over her shoulder at the text. "You should go," she said firmly. "Raj wouldn't ask if he didn't think you could handle it." "Me? At Lumiere? They'd spot me as an imposter before I even got through the door." Maya laughed nervously. "Those servers probably trained for years. So what? You think carrying 8 plates at once like you do takes less skill?" Lily challenged. Besides, they're desperate. They won't care if you don't know which tiny fork goes with which tiny food. Maya bit her lip, considering. Her rent was due next week, and her last check had already gone toward her mother's hospital bills. An extra $300 would give her some breathing room. I don't even have the right clothes, she protested weakly. Raj says they provide uniforms, Lily countered, already texting her nephew back. I'm telling him you'll be there. What time do you finish here? Lily, wait, but it was too late. The cook was grinning triumphantly at her phone. He says be there at 4 for quick training. Event starts at 6. Lily patted Maya's shoulder. Don't worry, I'll cover for you with Frank so you can leave early. For the rest of her shift, Maya's stomach was in knots. Between serving customers, she frantically Googled fine dining etiquette on her phone, trying to cram years of knowledge into a few hours. The more she read, the more intimidated she felt. Wine service alone seemed to require a degree in chemistry. How was she supposed to learn all this in one afternoon? By 3 o'clock, Maya was changing out of her yellow uniform in the diner's tiny bathroom, her hands shaking slightly. She'd brought her nicest black pants and a clean white button-up shirt, just in case Lumiere's loaner uniforms didn't fit. Her reflection in the spotted mirror looked terrified. You can do this, she told herself firmly. It's just serving food to people. You do this every day. But as she stepped out of the familiar comfort of sunshine and headed toward the glittering downtown area where Lumiere was located, Maya knew it wasn't just serving food. Tonight she would be serving the elite of Chicago, wealthy donors, celebrities and industry bigwigs who would expect perfection with every course. The imposing facade of Lumiere loomed before her, all sleek glass and polished stone. Maya took a deep breath and pushed through the heavy doors, immediately feeling underdressed despite her best efforts to look professional. The interior was even more intimidating. Crystal chandeliers, plush carpeting and tables set with more glassware and silverware than Maya had ever seen in one place. A tall man in an impeccable suit approached her with a questioning look. I'm here to help with tonight's event, Maya explained, her voice smaller than she intended. Raj from the kitchen called me in. The man's expression shifted from suspicion to relief. Oh, thank goodness. We're absolutely short-handed. I'm Daniel, the event manager. He gestured for her to follow him. Have you worked in fine dining before? Maya hesitated, then decided honesty was best. No, I work at Sunshine Diner on 7th. But I'm a quick learner and I have a good memory. Daniel looked slightly pained but nodded. Well, beggars can't be choosers tonight. The good news is the kitchen staff speaks highly of you, and we're providing a crash course for all our emergency staff. He led her to a back room where 3 other nervous-looking people were already being fitted for uniforms and given rapid-fire instructions by a severe woman with a clipboard. This is Vivian, our head server. She'll get you up to speed, Daniel said before hurrying off to handle some other crisis. Over the next hour, Maya's head spun with information. Vivian demonstrated the proper way to carry plates, pour wine, serve from the left, clear from the right, and a dozen other rules Maya had never considered. The uniform they gave her was stiff and formal, making her feel like she was playing dress-up. We're assigning each of you to different sections, Vivian announced finally. Maya, you'll take table 9 in the VIP section. Maya's eyes widened in alarm. VIP, shouldn't I be given a less important section since I'm new? Vivian consulted her clipboard. Unfortunately, we're working with what we have. Table 9 has 8 guests, including Thomas Reed, the food critic from the Tribune, and Chef Anton Petrov, who has 3 Michelin stars. The others are major donors. She looked up, noting Maya's panicked expression. Just focus on being attentive without hovering, and if you get confused about anything, signal me discreetly. As the clock ticked closer to 6, Maya found herself standing at attention with the rest of the staff as Daniel gave last-minute instructions. Outside the kitchen doors, she could hear the murmur of arriving guests and the soft notes of a string quartet. Remember, tonight is not just about serving food, Daniel said solemnly. It's about creating an experience. These people can eat anywhere. It's our job to make sure they remember Lumiere. The doors swung open, and Maya followed the other servers into the dining room. The transformation was complete. Candles flickered at every table, fresh flowers perfumed the air, and elegantly dressed guests mingled with cocktails in hand. As she approached table 9, Maya took a steadying breath. She might not belong in this world of luxury and excess, but for tonight, she would pretend. And who knew? Maybe pretending well enough was all it would take to get through this evening and walk away with enough money to keep her head above water for another month. What she didn't realize was that this night would change everything, that her ordinary life was about to take an extraordinary turn, starting with the 8 VIPs now taking their seats at her table. The glittering ballroom of Lumiere felt like another planet, compared to the worn linoleum floors of Sunshine Diner. Maya stood tall in her borrowed uniform, fighting the urge to tug at the stiff collar as she approached table 9. 8 pairs of eyes turned to her, some curious, others barely acknowledging her presence. "Good evening," she said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. "My name is Maya, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." A woman with silver-streaked hair and enough diamonds to sink a small boat gave her a dismissive once-over. "We were expecting Vincent. He always handles our table at these events." Maya swallowed hard. "I apologize, but Vincent is unavailable tonight. I'll do my best to ensure your experience meets Lumiere's standards." From the corner of her eye, Maya spotted Vivian watching her like a hawk. First test passed, but the night was young. "Well then," said a broad-shouldered man at the head of the table. "Let's start with champagne. The Crystal, I think." Maya nodded and turned toward the service station, her mind racing. At Sunshine, champagne meant the $7.99 sparkling wine they kept for birthday celebrations. Here she was about to serve bottles worth more than her monthly rent. At the beverage station, Maya's hands trembled slightly as she arranged 8 crystal flutes on her tray. "First time serving the VIPs?" asked a server named Lou, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. "First time serving anyone who isn't drinking from a mug or pint glass," Maya admitted. Lou chuckled. "Table 9, right? That's Thomas Reed in the blue suit. He's the food critic. The woman with the permanent frown is Gwendolyn Hayes, old money and very particular. Next to her is Chef Anton Petrov, who'll judge everything about the food but won't say a word about it to anyone except the kitchen staff later." He expertly opened the champagne with barely a sound. The others are big donors who think their money entitles them to special treatment, which it does, unfortunately. "Any advice?" Maya asked, watching him pour with precision. "Just remember, they're just people who need to eat and drink like everyone else. They might have fancier tastes, but deep down, they want the same things your diner customers want. To feel seen, to feel special, and to not have to think about what they need because you're already providing it." Those words settled Maya's nerves. This was familiar territory after all. Anticipating needs was her specialty. With newfound confidence, she balanced the tray of champagne and returned to the table. Instead of nervously distributing the glasses, she took her time, placing each flute precisely, making brief eye contact with each guest. She noted their positions, their demeanors, creating a mental map of the table dynamics. "Chef Petrov," she said, addressing the broad-shouldered man directly, "I understand you prefer your water without ice. I've arranged for that already." The chef's eyebrows rose slightly. He hadn't mentioned this preference tonight. It was a detail Maya had gleaned from overhearing Vivian's briefing to another server. The small sign of attentiveness didn't go unnoticed. As guests settled in, Maya moved with increasing confidence. She memorized the evening's special menu and recited it flawlessly, answering questions about preparation methods and ingredients, as if she'd worked at Lumiere for years rather than hours. "The scallops are seared just until caramelized," she explained to Gwendolyn Hayes, then finished with a brown butter sauce infused with sage from the restaurant's rooftop garden. Thomas Reed, the food critic, studied Maya with professional curiosity. "You seem remarkably knowledgeable for someone I've never seen here before." Maya felt a flash of panic but remembered Lou's advice. "I believe good service starts with understanding what you're serving," she replied. "The kitchen staff was kind enough to explain the dishes to me." Reed nodded, a hint of approval in his expression. Crisis averted, Maya thought, though her heart was pounding. The first course arrived, an artful arrangement of tiny vegetables and edible flowers that looked more like a painting than food. Maya served each plate with precision, remembering which guest had mentioned a dislike of radishes and which had requested extra sauce on the side. As the evening progressed, Maya settled into a rhythm. Between courses, she observed the other servers, mimicking their movements and attentiveness. Yet she also brought her own style to the table, a genuine warmth that cut through the stiff formality of the event. When Chef Petrov mentioned offhandedly that he found the dining room too warm, Maya discreetly arranged for the air conditioning to be adjusted in their section. When she noticed Gwendolyn Hayes struggling to read the dessert menu in the dimmed lighting, Maya appeared with a subtle reading light before the woman could complain. "You're unusually perceptive," Thomas Reed commented during the third course. "I just pay attention," Maya replied with a small smile. "At my regular job, remembering details makes the difference between a good day and a great one." "And where is your regular job?" he asked, clearly expecting another fine dining establishment. Maya hesitated only briefly. "Sunshine Diner on 7th Street. The table fell silent. Gwendolyn Hayes looked as though Maya had just admitted to working in a sewage plant. "A diner?" Chef Petrov asked, his tone unreadable. "Yes, sir. Best blueberry pancakes in Chicago," Maya said, her chin lifting slightly. No matter how out of place she felt at Lumiere, she wouldn't apologize for sunshine. To her surprise, the chef laughed, a genuine hearty sound. "I haven't had good pancakes in years. Too busy making foams and reductions." The moment of tension passed, but Maya could feel the table's perception of her shifting. She was no longer invisible, no longer just a server. She was a curiosity. Halfway through the main course, disaster struck. Maya was returning to the table with fresh bread when she overheard a heated conversation between Daniel and Vivian near the kitchen. "What do you mean Andre is sick? He's the only sommelier available tonight," Daniel hissed. "Food poisoning." "He's been in the bathroom for 20 minutes, Vivian replied. "We have 4 tables with wine pairings for the next course, including table 9 with their $1,000 bottles." Maya hesitated. At the diner, one of her regular customers was a wine distributor who often spoke passionately about his products. Over the years, she'd absorbed more knowledge than she realized, enough to know the basics of proper service, if not all the fancy terminology. As Daniel frantically called other restaurants to borrow a sommelier, Maya approached. "I could help," she offered quietly. Both turned to her with identical expressions of disbelief. "You?" Daniel looked desperate enough to consider it. "Do you know anything about wine service?" "I know the basics," Maya said. "Red wines should breathe. Whites should be chilled but not too cold. Pour from the right, about 1/3 of the glass, label facing the guest." Vivian shook her head. "Table 9 has ordered a 1982 Bordeaux that costs more than my car. We can't just wing it." "I'm not saying I'm an expert," Maya clarified, "but I know enough to open a bottle and pour without embarrassing anyone. And I'm a fast learner." Daniel and Vivian exchanged glances. With no other options presenting themselves, Daniel nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but I'll be watching closely. Any sign of trouble and I'll step in." With her heart in her throat, Maya returned to table 9. Chef Petrov had ordered an expensive red wine to accompany the beef course. The bottle sat in a decanter at the service station, waiting. "Your Bordeaux has been decanting and is ready to be served," Maya announced, projecting more confidence than she felt. She retrieved the wine and approached the table with measured steps. The crystal decanter felt impossibly fragile in her hands. "This is a 1982 Chateau Margaux," she said, recalling the label she'd seen earlier. "It's been open to breathe for 30 minutes, allowing the tannins to soften and the bouquet to develop." These were phrases she'd heard her wine distributor customer use countless times. To her relief, they sounded natural coming from her lips. She poured a small amount for Chef Petrov to taste, holding the decanter at just the right angle. He swirled, sniffed, and sipped with expert precision, then nodded his approval. Maya proceeded to serve each guest, moving clockwise around the table, pouring with a steady hand. "The blackcurrant notes in the wine should complement the earthy flavors of the truffle sauce," she added. Remembering another bit of knowledge from her regular customer, Thomas Reed was watching her intently now. "Did you study wine at the diner as well?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Maya laughed softly. "No, but one of my regulars imports wine. He likes to talk and I like to listen." "Clearly," Reed murmured, taking an appreciative sip. From across the room, Daniel's tense expression had relaxed into amazement. Maya had pulled it off, not with the polished expertise of a trained sommelier, but with an authentic approach that somehow felt more approachable. As she stepped back from the table, Maya caught Raj's eye as he peeked out from the kitchen. He gave her a thumbs up and a wide grin. She returned a small smile, feeling a rush of confidence unlike anything she'd experienced before. The night was still young, and already Maya had overcome multiple challenges that would have overwhelmed her just hours ago. Something was shifting inside her. A recognition that perhaps the skills she'd honed at the humble diner were more valuable than she'd ever realized. When she returned to table 9, the conversation had turned to her. "Tell me," Gwendolyn Hayes asked, her earlier frostiness thawed by excellent food and wine. "How does someone with your obvious talents end up at a diner instead of an establishment like this?" It was a loaded question, heavy with assumptions about what constituted talent and valuable work. But before Maya could respond, the sound of breaking glass from across the room signaled that her next challenge was about to begin. The sound of shattering glass cut through the elegant murmur of the ballroom. Maya turned to see a young server standing frozen, surrounded by the remains of what had been an elaborate dessert tower. The poor guy looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. Daniel rushed over, his composed facade cracking as he surveyed the mess. The young server, Maya had heard someone call him Ben earlier, was stammering apologies. His face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. I tripped on the carpet edge and just clean it up," Daniel hissed, eyeing the nearby tables where guests were watching the scene with undisguised interest. "And be quick about it." Maya felt a pang of sympathy. We've all been there, she thought, remembering her own spectacular fumbles during her early days at Sunshine. She glanced back at her table, where the main course was winding down. They seemed content for the moment, wine glasses still half full. Making a split-second decision, she detoured from her path back to table 9 and approached Ben, who was now frantically trying to scoop up shards of broken glass and splattered dessert. "Here," she said quietly, kneeling beside him. "I'll help," relief washed over his face. "Thanks." It was for table 14. They were supposed to get the chef's special dessert presentation. Maya glanced toward the kitchen, where frazzled staff were already dealing with the regular dessert service for dozens of other tables. "They'll have to remake it?" Ben nodded miserably. "It took them 20 minutes to assemble. Table 14 has that tech billionaire and his friends. They're not going to be happy about waiting." An idea sparked in Maya's mind. What was it exactly? The chocolate sphere with the raspberry sorbet inside, topped with the gold leaf. Chef pours the hot chocolate sauce over it at the table so it melts open, Ben explained. "It's this whole presentation thing." Maya remembered seeing the ingredients during her earlier kitchen tour. The chocolate spheres were pre-made, the sorbet kept in a special freezer. The sauce was the tricky part, heated to the perfect temperature so it would melt the sphere without destroying the sorbet inside. "I might be able to help," she said, standing up as they finished clearing the mess. "Keep table 14 distracted for 5 minutes." Before Ben could respond, Maya slipped into the kitchen, navigating her way through the controlled chaos. She spotted Raj plating a row of elegant desserts. "Raj, I need a favor. That chocolate sphere dessert, can you help me make one really quickly?" Raj looked up surprised. "The melt-away? Why?" "That's not on your table's order. There was an accident. Table 14's dessert got dropped," Raj winced. "Ouch, but I can't just..." "Please," Maya pressed. 5 minutes. "I'll owe you big time." Something in her expression must have convinced him because Raj sighed and nodded toward a quieter corner of the kitchen. "Get me a tray, the sphere mold from that shelf, and the dark chocolate ganache from the warming station." For the next 4 minutes, Maya and Raj worked in silent tandem. He showed her how to layer the sorbet inside the chocolate shell, while she retrieved the gold leaf and prepared the sauce. Years of working in cramped diners had made Maya adept at moving efficiently in tight spaces, anticipating Raj's needs before he voiced them. "You're good at this," he commented, carefully placing the completed sphere on a chilled plate. "Just following your lead," Maya replied, adding a perfect swirl of raspberry coulis to the plate's edge. Raj handed her the small copper pot of warm chocolate sauce. "Remember, pour it slowly right at the top. Too fast and it'll collapse instead of melt." Maya nodded, carefully balancing the dessert and sauce as she made her way back to the dining room. She caught Ben's eye and gave him a small nod. His expression morphed from worry to disbelief as he realized what she'd done. Table 14 consisted of 6 people in their 30s and 40s, all dressed in that particular way that screamed wealth without flash. The man at the head of the table, presumably the billionaire Ben had mentioned, was mid-story when Maya approached. "Excuse me," she said politely. "Your dessert presentation." The conversation halted as all eyes turned to her. Maya set the plate down carefully in the center of the table, aware that people from nearby tables were watching with interest. Even her own table 9 had paused their conversation to observe. Tonight we've prepared a special dessert, our chocolate sphere with raspberry sorbet, Maya began, channeling the confidence she'd seen in Vivian during the staff briefing. Inside is a house-made sorbet using raspberries from a local farm. The sphere itself is crafted from single-origin dark chocolate. She held up the copper pot, enjoying the anticipation on their faces. When I pour this warm chocolate sauce over the sphere, it will melt to reveal the sorbet inside. The temperature contrast creates a unique taste experience. With steady hands, Maya poured the sauce in a thin stream over the top of the sphere. The chocolate began to melt immediately, creating a mesmerizing effect as the shell collapsed to reveal the vibrant pink sorbet inside. Gasps and appreciative murmurs rose from the table. The gold leaf represents the charity's 20th anniversary, Maya added, improvising. We hope you enjoy this sweet conclusion to your meal. The billionaire leaned forward, clearly impressed. That was quite a show. Thank you, Maya, she supplied with a smile. Well done, Maya, he said, already dipping his spoon into the dessert. As she stepped away, Maya caught Daniel watching her with an unreadable expression. She'd gone off script, something that probably wasn't encouraged at an establishment like Lumiere, but judging by Table 14's reaction, her gamble had paid off. When she returned to Table 9, Thomas Reed was looking at her with renewed interest. That was impressive, he said, especially since I happen to know that dessert wasn't planned for tonight's event at all. Maya felt her cheeks warm. Sometimes improvisation is necessary. Indeed, he agreed. And where did you learn that particular skill? Also at your diner? The way he asked suggested genuine curiosity rather than mockery. Maya relaxed slightly. When you work in a place where the cook might quit mid-shift or the delivery truck might not show up, you learn to make do with what you have. She explained. It's not so different here. Just fancier ingredients and prettier plates. Chef Petrov, who had been quietly observing, let out a bark of laughter. She has you there, Thomas. The fundamentals are the same. From greasy spoon to 3-star kitchen, it's all about problem solving. The conversation shifted to the dessert options, but Maya could feel something had changed in the table's dynamic. They were seeing her differently now, not as a temporary replacement or an amusement, but as someone worth paying attention to. As the dessert course began, Vivian approached Maya at the service station, her expression tense. What you did for Table 14, she began. I know. I should have cleared it with you first, Maya interrupted, bracing for a reprimand. I just saw an opportunity to fix a problem and took it. To her surprise, Vivian's face softened. Actually, I was going to thank you. That table belongs to Howard Chen. He's donated millions to this charity and is notoriously particular. Daniel says he was delighted with the presentation. Maya blinked, not quite processing the praise. Oh, I was just trying to help Ben out. Well, your helping Ben ended up helping all of us. Vivian hesitated, then added, we could use more quick thinkers like you around here. As Vivian walked away, Maya felt a strange flutter in her chest. Was that a job offer? Surely not. Places like Lumiere didn't hire servers from diners, yet the thought lingered as she delivered the intricate desserts to Table 9. The desserts at Lumiere were works of art, tiny constructions of pastry and chocolate that seemed too beautiful to eat. Maya served each with care, noticing how Chef Petrov examined his with a professional eye before taking a bite. The pastry chef has outdone herself, he commented. The balance of textures is exquisite. The raspberry notes complement the wine beautifully, Gwendolyn Hayes added, surprising Maya with the friendly tone. It was the first unprompted positive comment she'd made all evening. As the meal wound down, Maya found herself engaged in more conversation with the table. They asked about her experience at Sunshine, and to her surprise seemed genuinely interested in her answers. There was no condescension in their questions, just curiosity about a world very different from their own. So you really remember every regular's order? Thomas Reed asked. Not just their order, Maya explained, but how they like it. Mr. Kovac wants his hash browns crispy but not burnt. Mrs. Lee needs her eggs cooked hard because she's pregnant and worried about salmonella. The college kids who come in after bar close want extra cheese on their fries, but only if Jake is cooking because he doesn't charge them extra. That's an impressive memory, Gwendolyn commented. Maya shrugged. It makes people feel good to be remembered. Sometimes that's as important as the food itself. Chef Petrov nodded thoughtfully. That's something many fine dining establishments forget. They focus so much on the food that they forget the human connection. He gestured around the room. All this, the crystal, the silver, the expensive ingredients, it means nothing if the guests don't feel seen. As coffee and digestives were served, Maya noticed Daniel signaling to her from across the room. She excused herself and approached him, wondering if she'd somehow overstepped again. "Is everything all right?" she asked. Daniel looked unusually flustered. "We have a situation with the after-dinner service. Andre is still sick, and now Luis has cut his hand badly enough to need stitches." "That's terrible," Maya said, genuinely concerned.
Is there anything I can do to help?
"Actually, yes. We're short on staff for the dessert wine and cordial service. I know you stepped in with the wine earlier." He trailed off, clearly uncomfortable, asking for more. Maya straightened her shoulders. "I'd be happy to help. Just tell me what needs to be done." Relief washed over Daniel's face. "Thank you. Vivian will brief you on the protocol for the digestive cart. It's relatively straightforward, but presentation is everything." Maya finished for him with a small smile. "I'm learning." As she followed Daniel toward the service area, Maya caught a glimpse of herself in one of the ballroom's ornate mirrors. In the borrowed uniform with her hair neatly pinned up, she looked like she belonged here among the crystal and silver. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. For the first time since walking through Lumiere's imposing doors, Maya allowed herself to wonder, what if this wasn't just a one-night gig? What if this evening was the beginning of something entirely new? The digestive cart was a thing of beauty. A gleaming antique trolley with brass fixtures and glass shelves displaying dozens of crystal decanters. Each contained amber, gold, or clear liquids that caught the light like jewels. Maya listened carefully as Vivian explained the contents. Top shelf is cognac and armagnac arranged by age. Second shelf is single malt whiskey, mostly Scottish but a few Japanese. Bottom shelf has your fruit brandies, grappa, and specialty cordials, Vivian said, pointing to each section. The small cards list the details for each, but you should be able to answer basic questions about flavor profiles. Maya studied the cart with a mixture of awe and determination. At the diner, after-dinner drinks meant more coffee or maybe a milkshake. This was an entirely different world. "And how exactly do I serve these?" she asked. "Warm the snifters for the cognac by rinsing them with hot water and drying them thoroughly. Pour just enough to cover the bottom of the glass. These are meant to be savored, not gulped. Always present the bottle so guests can see the label before pouring." Maya nodded, committing each instruction to memory. "What about glassware for the others?" Vivian looked impressed by the question. "The glassware is arranged by type in the bottom drawer. Cordial glasses for the sweet liqueurs, tulip glasses for the grappas." She hesitated. "Are you sure you've never done this before?" "Positive," Maya replied with a small smile. "But I'm a fast learner." "Clearly," Vivian said, then gestured toward the ballroom. "Start with the tables along the east wall, then work your way toward the center. Your table 9 specifically requested that you return with the cart." That last bit of information gave Maya a boost of confidence as she carefully wheeled the cart back into the ballroom. The dinner portion of the evening had concluded, and guests were now mingling between tables. The atmosphere had shifted from the formal structure of the meal to something more relaxed, though still undeniably elegant. As Maya approached her first table, she straightened her shoulders and put on her warmest smile, the same one she used at Sunshine when greeting regulars. "Good evening. Would anyone care for a digestive? We have a selection of fine cognacs, whiskeys, and cordials." A gentleman in his 60s with a precisely trimmed beard looked up with interest. "Ah, wonderful. Do you have any armagnac?" "Yes, sir. We have several, including a 1985 Chateau de Lobade that the head sommelier particularly recommends," Maya replied, recalling one of the bottles Vivian had highlighted. The man looked pleasantly surprised. "You know your spirits. The Lobade would be perfect." Maya prepared the glass with practiced movements, warming it before pouring a modest amount of the rich amber liquid. She presented the bottle, then served with a steady hand. "Enjoy, sir. The warmth of the glass will help release the complex aromas." As she moved from table to table, Maya found herself actually enjoying the process. Each interaction was brief but meaningful. A small recommendation here, a bit of information about aging processes there. She wasn't just serving drinks. She was facilitating little moments of pleasure, helping to end the evening on a high note. When she finally wheeled the cart to table 9, she found the group engaged in animated conversation. Thomas Reed spotted her first and brightened. "Ah, Maya has returned with the good stuff," he announced to the table. Chef Petrov rubbed his hands together with exaggerated glee. "Excellent. I've been waiting for this all evening." Maya couldn't help but smile at their enthusiasm. "What can I offer you this evening?" "What would you recommend?" Gwendolyn Hayes asked, surprising Maya again with her friendly tone. A far cry from her initial frostiness. Put on the spot, Maya thought quickly. What would she recommend if she actually knew anything about these expensive spirits? "Well," she began cautiously, "that depends on your preference. If you enjoy subtle complexity, there's a Japanese whiskey that might interest you, the Yamazaki 18-year. It has notes of dried fruit and a hint of spice." This was information she'd gleaned from the card on the bottle, but she delivered it with such natural confidence that no one questioned her knowledge. "That sounds lovely," Gwendolyn replied. "I'll try that." One by one, Maya served each guest at the table, drawing on the detailed cards and her observations of their preferences throughout dinner to make suggestions. Chef Petrov was delighted with the XO cognac she recommended, while Thomas Reed nodded appreciatively at her suggestion of a rare grappa. "You have good instincts," Reed commented as she poured. "Most people would have steered me toward something more conventional." "You ordered the most adventurous dishes at dinner," Maya explained. "It seemed like you enjoy exploring new flavors." The chef raised his glass in a small toast. "To new flavors and unexpected talents," he said, his eyes twinkling as he looked at Maya. The others at the table joined the toast, including Maya, who raised an imaginary glass and nodded her thanks. As the evening progressed, Maya continued serving digestives throughout the ballroom. She was just finishing with a table near the grand piano when she noticed a commotion near the kitchen doors. Daniel was gesturing frantically while speaking to the event coordinator, who looked increasingly distressed. Maya hesitated, then secured the digestive cart and made her way closer, catching snippets of conversation. "Completely ruined. All of them. Guests are expecting the gift bags. Can't just give them empty." She approached cautiously. "Is everything okay?" Daniel turned to her with a look of barely contained panic. "No, everything is not okay. The custom chocolate boxes for the guest gift bags have all melted. Someone left them near a heating vent." Maya winced. "All of them?" "Every last one," the event coordinator confirmed miserably. 300 hand-painted chocolate boxes, each containing the charity's logo. They were supposed to be the centerpiece of the gift bags. "Can't you just put something else in the bags?" Maya suggested. Daniel shook his head. "The rest of the items are already in there, a bottle of wine, the event program, some sponsored products. But the chocolate box was meant to be displayed on top when opened. Without it, the bags look incomplete." Maya thought for a moment. "What about those chocolate truffles I saw in the kitchen earlier? The ones rolled in gold dust?" "Those are part of tomorrow's dessert prep," Daniel said. "We'd need hundreds of them, but they exist, right? And they're already made?" Daniel and the coordinator exchanged looks. "Yes, but what if we presented them differently?" Maya pressed. "Not as a box, but arranged in a way that still looks special?" The coordinator looked skeptical but desperate. "Like how?" Maya thought back to Sunshine Diner, where presentation was less about artistry and more about practicality. "Do you have any small cloth bags? Or even clear cellophane?" "There are organza favor bags in the supply closet," the coordinator said slowly. "Left over from a wedding last weekend." "Perfect," Maya said, her mind racing. "And ribbon? Something in the charity's colors?" Daniel nodded. "In the same closet. But who's going to assemble 300 favor bags in the next hour?" "I'll help," Maya volunteered. "And I bet some of the kitchen staff would too. It's better than letting the evening end on a disappointment, right?" 20 minutes later, Maya found herself in a back room with Raj and several other kitchen staff, creating an assembly line of elegant favor bags. Each organza pouch held 3 gold-dusted truffles, tied with a ribbon in the charity's signature blue. They weren't as elaborate as the planned chocolate boxes, but they looked festive and luxurious. "You saved the day again," Raj said as they worked. "Daniel's practically ready to offer you a job." Maya laughed, but her heart skipped a beat at the thought. "I doubt that. Places like Lumiere don't hire people like me." "Why not?" Raj challenged. You've done more tonight to impress the guests than half the regular staff. Before Maya could respond, the kitchen doors swung open, and Chef Petrov himself walked in. The room immediately fell silent, everyone's hands freezing mid-task as the renowned chef surveyed their makeshift operation. "So, this is where you disappeared to," he said, his eyes finding Maya. "I'm sorry if I was away from the floor too long," she began, but he waved her apology away. No, Daniel explained the situation. He picked up one of the completed favor bags, examining it with a critical eye. Simple but elegant. A good solution. "Thank you, Chef," Maya said, relief washing over her. Instead of leaving, Chef Petrov rolled up his sleeves. "How can I help?" The room remained frozen in shock until Maya recovered enough to hand him a stack of organza bags. "If you could fill these with 3 truffles each, I'll tie the ribbons." And so, to the astonishment of everyone present, one of the world's most celebrated chefs joined their assembly line, carefully placing chocolate truffles into tiny bags while chatting amiably with the kitchen staff. Maya caught Raj's eye and he shook his head in disbelief. When they had assembled enough bags, Daniel arrived to coordinate distribution. His eyes widened at the sight of Chef Petrov helping, but he recovered quickly. "These look wonderful," he said, examining the finished product. "Much more personal than the boxes. The guests will love them." Chef Petrov stood, dusting chocolate from his hands. "Maya here has a talent for turning problems into opportunities," he said. "A valuable skill in any kitchen or dining room." Daniel nodded, giving Maya an appraising look. "Indeed. We've noticed that several times tonight." As they prepared to return to the ballroom, Chef Petrov held Maya back for a moment. "Thomas Reed is writing an article about tonight's event," he said casually. "He seems quite impressed with you." Maya blinked, unsure how to respond. "Me? But I'm just filling in. Sometimes the most interesting stories come from unexpected places." The chef smiled enigmatically, like a diner waitress outshining seasoned professionals at a high society event. Maya felt her cheeks warm. "I wouldn't say that." "No, you wouldn't, but others might." He gestured toward the ballroom. "Shall we? I believe the evening is about to reach its conclusion, and you wouldn't want to miss what happens next." Puzzled by his words but curious, Maya followed Chef Petrov back to the glittering ballroom, where guests were beginning to gather near the stage for the charity auction. The favor bags were being distributed to delighted exclamations, the crisis successfully averted. As Maya took her position near table 9, now empty as its occupants mingled throughout the room, she caught sight of Thomas Reed deep in conversation with the event coordinator. They both glanced her way, and Reed nodded as if confirming something. Maya barely had time to wonder about this when a familiar voice spoke behind her. "There you are," Gwendolyn Hayes said. "We were beginning to think you disappeared." "Just helping with a small emergency," Maya replied with a smile. "So I heard." "Chocolate crisis?" Gwendolyn's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Anton told us you orchestrated quite the rescue mission." Before Maya could respond, the lights dimmed slightly and the charity's director took the stage to begin the auction. As the elegant crowd turned their attention to the proceedings, Maya felt a strange mixture of emotions wash over her. Pride in what she'd accomplished tonight, wonder at finding herself in this glittering world so different from her own, and something else. A sense that perhaps the boundaries she'd always assumed were fixed might be more permeable than she'd thought. The auction began, with staggering sums being pledged for various causes, but Maya's mind was elsewhere, contemplating what would happen when the clock struck midnight and this Cinderella evening came to its inevitable end. The charity auction moved at a dizzying pace, with eye-watering sums being pledged for everything from exotic vacations to exclusive artwork. Maya watched from the sidelines, amazed at how casually people bid amounts that would have paid her rent for years. Quite something, isn't it? Lou, the kind server who had helped her earlier, appeared at her elbow with a tray of water glasses. "It's another world," Maya agreed, helping him distribute the glasses to nearby guests. "I've never seen so much money thrown around so easily." Lou chuckled. "And this isn't even their money, it's their company's money, tax write-offs." "Still," he added more seriously, "it does a lot of good. Last year's event funded 3 new youth centers in neighborhoods that really needed them." That put things in perspective. Maya nodded thoughtfully as the auctioneer announced the final item, a private dinner for 6, Prepared by Chef Petrov himself in the winner's home. Starting bid is $10,000, the auctioneer announced. Hands shot up around the room. Maya watched in astonishment as the bidding quickly climbed, finally settling at $35,000. The winner, a silver-haired woman in a stunning emerald gown, looked absolutely delighted as she accepted the congratulations of those around her. As the formal portion of the evening concluded, guests began to collect their favor bags and say their goodbyes. Maya found herself busy clearing glasses and assisting with coats, slipping back into the routine service work that felt more familiar than the specialized tasks she'd performed earlier. She was stacking dessert plates when a gentle tap on her shoulder made her turn. Thomas Reed stood there, his expression thoughtful. "So, Maya from Sunshine Diner," he said. "I wanted to thank you personally for your excellent service tonight." "Just doing my job," Maya replied with a smile. "Though I admit it was a bit different from my usual Friday night shift." "I should think so." Reed seemed to be studying her. "You know, I've been in the food and hospitality industry for over 20 years. I've dined at the finest restaurants in the world and been served by people with decades of training." He paused. "But I've rarely seen someone with your natural ability to read a table, to anticipate needs, to solve problems creatively." Maya felt her cheeks warm at the unexpected praise. "Thank you. That's very kind." "It's not kindness, it's observation." Reed handed her a business card. "I'm writing a piece about tonight's event. I'd like to include your story if you're willing to share it." Maya stared at the card, momentarily speechless. "My story? But I'm just a diner waitress who filled in for one night." "That's precisely what makes it interesting. The woman who stepped out of her everyday world and excelled in another without missing a beat." He smiled. "Think about it. Call me next week if you're interested." As Reed walked away, Maya tucked the card carefully into her pocket, her mind spinning. Before she could fully process what had just happened, Daniel appeared, looking surprisingly relaxed now that the event was winding down. "Maya, I've been looking for you. Could you come with me for a moment? There are some people who'd like to speak with you." Curious and slightly apprehensive, Maya followed Daniel to a quiet corner of the ballroom, where Chef Petrov, Gwendolyn Hayes, and the event coordinator were engaged in conversation. They looked up as she approached. "Ah, here she is," Chef Petrov said, his usual stern expression softened by what appeared to be genuine warmth. "The woman of the hour." "I wouldn't go that far," Maya said with an embarrassed laugh. "We would," the event coordinator countered. "You saved us more than once tonight. The chocolate situation alone would have been a disaster. Not to mention your exceptional handling of Table 9, Gwendolyn added. "I've attended this gala for 15 years, and I've never experienced service quite like yours." Maya shifted uncomfortably under their praise. "I just did what needed to be done." "That's exactly it," Chef Petrov said, leaning forward. "You saw what needed to be done and you did it without fuss or drama."
Do you know how rare that quality is?
"Especially in someone with no formal training?" "I've had training," Maya objected. "Just not the kind you'd recognize. 5 years at Sunshine taught me plenty." "Clearly," Gwendolyn said with an approving nod. "And that's why we wanted to talk to you." Daniel stepped forward. "Maya Lumiere will be opening a new location downtown next month. We're assembling a team and we'd like you to consider joining us." Maya blinked, certain she'd misheard. "You want to hire me? As a server?" "Initially, yes," Daniel confirmed, "with the opportunity for advancement. Your people skills and problem-solving abilities would be valuable assets." "But I don't know anything about fine dining," Maya protested. "Tonight was a crash course, but there's so much I don't know about wines and proper service and—" "Technical skills can be taught," Chef Petrov interrupted. "Instinct, adaptability, grace under pressure, these things cannot. You either have them or you don't. And you, Maya Johnson, have them in abundance." Maya fell silent, trying to process what was happening. Just 12 hours ago, she had been serving pancakes and coffee at Sunshine, worrying about making rent. Now she was being offered a position at one of the city's most prestigious restaurants. "There's more," Gwendolyn said. "I serve on the board of the Culinary Institute. Given your natural talents, I believe you would thrive in a formal educational environment. The Institute offers scholarships for promising individuals in the service industry, and I'd be happy to recommend you for our program." "A scholarship?" Maya's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "To culinary school?" "If that's a direction you'd be interested in," Gwendolyn replied. "No pressure, of course. But the option is there." Maya's mind raced. Culinary school had always been a distant dream, filed away in the category of maybe someday alongside other seemingly impossible goals. She loved food, loved the artistry of it, but had never had the means to pursue formal training. "This is a lot to take in," she said finally. "Of course it is," Daniel said kindly. "We don't expect an answer tonight. Take some time to think about it." Chef Petrov reached into his jacket pocket and produced a card of his own. "My direct number," he said, handing it to her. "Call me when you've decided, or if you have questions." As they moved away to attend to other matters, Maya stood still, the weight of 2 business cards in her pocket suddenly feeling significant. Options, possibilities, doors opening where before there had been only walls. She was still standing there when Raj found her, his chef's coat spattered with evidence of a long night in the kitchen. "Hey," he said, taking in her expression. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Maya laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to the sound. "I just got offered a job, and a scholarship to culinary school." Raj's face split into a wide grin. "No way, that's amazing. I told you they'd be impressed." "It doesn't feel real," Maya admitted. "Things like this don't happen to people like me." "Says who?" Raj challenged. "Why shouldn't amazing things happen to you? You worked hard tonight. You saw problems and fixed them. You treated every guest like they mattered." He shrugged. "Sounds to me like you earned those opportunities." Put that way, it did make a kind of sense. Maya had never been afraid of hard work or shied away from challenges. Tonight had simply presented a new set of challenges, and she'd met them head-on. "I should probably get changed," she said, realizing she was still wearing the borrowed uniform. "It's getting late." "The kitchen crew is having a little after-party at the Night Owl," Raj said. "Nothing fancy, just unwinding after a crazy night. You should come." Maya hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that." As she made her way to the staff-changing area, Maya passed through the now-empty ballroom. The glittering chandeliers still shone, but without the crowd of elegant guests the space felt different, still beautiful but somehow more accessible, less intimidating. In the small staff bathroom, Maya changed back into her own clothes, the simple black pants and white shirt she'd worn from Sunshine. As she folded the borrowed uniform, she caught sight of herself in the mirror and paused. She looked the same as she had this morning. Same dark hair pulled back in a practical style, same warm brown eyes, same subtle smile lines that came from years of customer service. And yet something had shifted. There was a new confidence in her posture, a certainty that hadn't been there before. Tonight had shown her something important. The boundaries between worlds weren't as solid as she'd believed. The skills she'd honed at Sunshine, her memory, her ability to read people, her calm in a crisis, were valuable anywhere. They weren't lesser just because they'd been developed in a diner rather than a fine dining establishment. Maya carefully tucked the 2 business cards into her wallet. Tomorrow she would think about what came next. Tomorrow she would weigh her options and make decisions. But tonight she would join Raj and the others at the Night Owl, share stories about the evening's adventures, and celebrate this unexpected turning point. As she left Lumiere, Maya paused on the sidewalk and looked up at the elegant facade. 12 hours ago, she'd approached those doors with trepidation, certain she didn't belong. Now she walked away with the knowledge that she could belong, anywhere she chose to be, that the only real limits were the ones she placed on herself. The cool night air felt invigorating on her face as she turned and headed toward the Night Owl, where new friends and possibilities awaited. Behind her, Lumiere's lights continued to shine, no longer intimidating but inviting, a beacon of what might be possible in this next chapter of her life. Maya smiled to herself as she walked, her steps light despite the long night. For an ordinary waitress, the future suddenly looked quite extraordinary indeed.